There is a game that feels like a classic made by Troika, something that remarkably has vibes like Bloodlines or Arcanum, even though it wasn't made by them. In fact, it was released almost a decade after the studio's dissolvement. This one was made by Obsidian Entertainment, which should actually explain why it feels so similar. Join me in exploring a game that, if released a few years sooner, would probably earn the title of a classic. Let's take an in-depth look at Alpha Protocol. It really bears all the hallmarks of a Troika-style game. Brilliant ideas plagued by technical issues, and systems that often feel half-baked. But there is something in it that is genuinely inspired and way ahead of its time. So much so that it wasn't replicated to this day. I will take a look at all of this, the bad, the awkward and the groundbreaking. But what are we looking at in the first place? Alpha Protocol is a spy thriller game, borrowing elements from James Bond as well as something like Kingsman, although I'm very much aware that the game predates the second one. To put it simply, there is the overarching, very realistic plot that has the potential to destabilize the entire globe. But that doesn't stop Alpha Protocol from having over-the-top cartoonish villains, as well as abilities that break the rules of physics. It's at times a strange mix, but it works for the most part. The story and presentation? One of the game's strongest points. The technical execution? Not so much. That's where it stumbles. But we will take it one step at a time, as always. Alpha Protocol was the first foray of Obsidian into establishing their own action RPG IP, after previously working on something much more established like KOTOR 2 or Neverwinter Nights 2. By the way, both of these games I personally quite like, but when it comes to this one, to quote Bloodlines, good effort, execution needs a little work. Just like the games made by Troika. Let me explain what I mean by that. This game is plagued by technical difficulties. The systems that you will interact with the most, like combat or stealth, are not that fleshed out or even good at times. They are simply usable, very much like the combat in the Troika games. So much so that if you would ask me without me knowing who made this game, Troika would be my go-to answer. My second guess would be the actual developer, Obsidian. Plus, Alpha Protocol has one thing that is simply leaps and bounds above any other game, the dialogue system. But let's start the adventure, as not to keep you in this introductory purgatory any longer. And as always, like, subscribe, share, comment, and expect massive spoilers for the entire game. Yeah, nothing like a downed airliner to set the mood for the beginning of the adventure. Our hero doesn't know it yet, but this attack set in motion events that could potentially destabilize the entire world. Meet Mike Thornton, a new hire at Alpha Protocol, and it always will be Mike Thornton. There is no way to change the name or the general look of the character, which is very understandable. The name is probably something that the agency gave him, so it will always be this. But there is something that I can change, that being the background of the agent. There are a few, although one is locked. You have to finish the game with a specific specialization to get access to it. So for the first playthrough, you will have access to 4 generic specializations. One of them will allow you to allocate the beginning skill points as you please. The other 3 are presets. But these are boring choices, because there is the 4th option, Recruit. Ability-wise, it is a complete blank slate, with no experience whatsoever. While the previous presets had about 31 ability points to allocate, this one has a fun round 0. I will explain later how they are allocated and in what categories. But you might ask, why would anyone choose the one option that starts with Mike at the actual bottom of the ladder, instead of someone who is at least a few steps on it already? Well, for one, this option gives access to some rookie dialogue options in the beginning, and secondly, playing the game on Recruit will allow you to choose the Veteran background once finished. Veteran is the specialization that is unavailable in the beginning. Once unlocked, it will, as the Recruit one does, give you new separate dialogue choices in the beginning as well as in some later missions. Additionally, this one will start you with a whopping 120 ability points, which is an unimaginable number at the beginning. If you played the game for the first time, I would strongly encourage you to play as recruit, if only for the fact that you will unlock the veteran afterwards. I will choose veteran, seeing as this is the one that comparatively fewer people got to play as. Let's get on with it.
If anyone is to blame for these events, Mr. Thornton, it is you.
The guy in the suit is Henry Leland, the CEO of the Halbeck Corporation, a large company that is a US defense contractor. If you paid attention, you might have already seen their logo. Yes, that's the same corporation that produced the missile that shut down the plane in the intro. As for this little talk with Henry, it will serve as something of a framing device. He will occasionally comment on the moves that Mike will make during the adventure. In fact, these interactions position the rest of the game as kind of a retrospection, with tons of moving parts. But one thing at a time. The important part is that we will be seeing this room more than once in the near future. First off, we have to actually start the adventure.
Where's my gear?
Yeah, nothing like being dragged on my first day on a job. This little place right here is the infirmary of the Alpha Protocol base. We never get to know where this place is actually located, but most likely it's on some island, probably in the Pacific. But that's pure speculation on my part. It could as easily be in the Mediterranean, although I doubt that. Too many prying eyes. Anyway, getting out of here with my veteran skills will be an actual joke, although the beginning hallucinations were rather rough on the eyes. I was like a ghost, no one even saw me this whole time. Basically, to get out I just had to beat up a few unsuspecting guards in the infirmary and a bit beyond. But this escape exposes one of the more half-baked systems in the game. By that I mean sneaking and taking out enemies stealthily. The sneaking itself isn't half that bad, allowing to use cover, plus Mike is actually quite swift at it. The takedown animations are also really satisfying, whether it be lethal or non-lethal. The problem lies elsewhere, lies quite literally, I might add. With the enemies, to be more precise. Sure, the AI is sometimes brain dead, running around like chickens without a head, but that is when they spot you, while unaware they stick to their patrol routes. But the most baffling design choice is what happens with the bodies once they hit the ground. They just lay there, until they don't. By that I mean that there is no mechanic implemented to pick up or otherwise move them. They just lay on the ground for everyone to see, and after a while they disappear. Somehow. I can't even tell you what the trigger for them disappearing is. It's very random. They sometimes vanish due to simple camera rotation. Or perhaps there are small checkpoints in the game itself that trigger and then they are removed? I honestly don't know. Whatever the case, when I first played this game and saw that I cannot pick up the bodies, I assumed that this is a simplification of sorts, and the down guards are invisible gameplay-wise, and perhaps that is why they didn't bother to implement a pickup mechanic. But no! If any enemy sees an incapacitated comrade, he will become suspicious and perhaps even trigger an alarm. This whole setup is so counterintuitive that it hurts. Such a basic function as picking up bodies should simply be implemented, especially if a downed patrolman can be seen by others. It's weird, and there is no excuse for it not being there. It should simply be coded in. For a game based in large part on sneaking and doing stuff covertly, such a mechanic is a must, but at least they disappear quite fast. To be honest, this one thing was the most irritating part gameplay-wise in the entire game, that took me out of the experience more than anything else. Until I simply got used to it and started to roll with it. After getting out of the infirmary, I finally meet Yancey Westridge. He is responsible for introducing me to Alpha Protocol and my mission, but that will come at the end of orientation. First, I have to meet with the people in charge of my further evaluation. That means two rather important characters, and Darcy. Let's start with the latter. The encounter with this agent provided me with the most significant bummer of the entire game. And not because Darcy is an insufferable idiot who most likely got the job because his dad is a US senator. Oh, how I love nepotism. But rather due to the fact that he is supposedly in charge of the gadget department. Yeah, I came here with the idea of exploding watches, laser cutting pencils or umbrella guns. What I actually got was this. Grenades? How the hell do grenades classify as gadgets? What in the actual hell? Grenades are not gadgets. They are grenades and properly classified already. Yeah, all the gadget department has to offer is a selection of various grenades and mines. Oh, and an alarm scrambler. At least that one is vaguely gadgety. You can't even begin to imagine how let down I felt the first time around. Truth be told, I still feel let down by the way this was handled. No fun experimental inventions, no interesting covert trickery, just something that blows up. And more disappointingly, something that was always designed and intended to blow up. I had it somehow in my head that they will give me something straight from a James Bond movie, you know, the older ones, or a Kingsman movie. And don't tell me that this is a more grounded setting, so it is more realistic for it being that way. Not while the abilities work as they do. For example, one of them turns Mike completely invisible for a rather generous amount of time. And the type of enemies that we will encounter during the adventure. I will get to both of those topics in due time. The point being, realism in these cases goes right out of the window. To sum it all up, the gadgets are very disappointing, like Darcy himself. An insufferable idiot who thinks way too much of himself. At one point he even bragged about the fact that he possesses the arcane ability of bouncing grenades off walls to hit something behind cover. Yeah, Michael doesn't like him very much. It seems that getting on his good side, as far as I can tell, a wasted effort. Next up is Mina Tang, the first friendly face. That's a nice change. She runs the weapon course and doesn't care much for guys who think too much of themselves. That would explain her dislike towards Darcy. But she will respond positively to Mike's playful banter in the future, so maybe it's not so much the attitude, rather than the fact that she really hates Darcy. Actually, figuring out what makes people tick, to what conversation approach they react in which way, is an important part of this game, so this bit of information about Mina will come in handy in gameplay. But right now let's concentrate on what she wants to evaluate. That being my gun handling skills, which is another rather half-baked mechanic. Although this time around it functions as intended. In Alpha Protocol, your gun skills are based on the mechanics of the game much more than the skill of the player. This is an approach that I care very little for, especially in an FPP or a TPP game like this one. It's just a natural reflex for me that if you have something in your crosshairs, you should be able to hit it. I believe that this is true for many people, not just me. And not hitting a target because the character I'm currently playing lacks the ability to do so is mildly infuriating. Now you know that the skill of Mike is what matters here. So let's get to the weapons that will be available during missions. That will be pistols, shotguns, SMGs, and rifles. Honestly, I didn't care much for anything other than the rifle for my first playthrough. In the second one though, I discovered that the pistol is far more useful and actually the deadliest weapon in the whole ensemble. Now allow me to interject something here. If you have any problems with the combat in this game, just spec into pistols. The special ability associated with this weapon type, the chain shot, will allow you to clean a room or deal with bosses without breaking a sweat. Plus, a few ranks in, you can critically hit enemies from behind cover without exposing yourself. The pistol is by far the most powerful and versatile weapon in game. So if you have any problems with combat, do yourself a favor and go for the pistols, both in loadout and skill progression. It will save you a ton of headaches. With the basic weapon orientation done, it's time to get going. What's that, Mina? Darcy is trying to beat my score. Would I like to teach him a lesson?
These targets are pretty easy for someone to hit. Thornton could have aced this thing blind.
Give me the gun.
Ah, that one hit felt so satisfying. Mina, if you want to humble Darcy again, call me anytime. Now, onward to finish orientation. Oh, a janitor.
That would either be an insult or an excellent deduction. I'm guessing the former.
This is Parker, a very no-nonsense guy. You know, my first instincts were somewhat correct. He actually is sort of a janitor, responsible for shutting the program down when it gets exposed or runs its course. You know, wiping the files, turning off the lights. But what is Alpha Protocol anyway? Alpha Protocol operates in the shadows, a secretive black ops program that exists beyond the reach of traditional oversight. Unlike the CIA or NSA, bound by official rules and regulations, Alpha Protocol is unshackled, a ghost in the system. Its agents are phantoms, their existence erased, their actions deniable, and their failures disposable. The program's mission is as dangerous as it is essential: to tackle the world's most volatile threats, handle explosive political crises, and execute morally murky operations that no government would dare to acknowledge. It's the ultimate weapon of plausible deniability, specializing in counterterrorism and covert actions, where the only rule is survival and success. Basically, a program that allows the US government to conduct operations and then deny any knowledge of said operation if it comes to light. And Parker here seems to know way too much about it, like he worked through several iterations of this program already. This makes him a dangerous man for an analytic. Anyway, he evaluates Michael's covert abilities, and then sends me on an intel gathering mission inside the facility, though on one that is not officially sanctioned. That concludes my orientation. Now back to Westridge to get the post-training talk.
I'd rather skip the pep talk and get started.
Fair enough.
I shut him down real quick. I don't really like this guy. Actually, apart from Mina, these guys are a bit irritating. Off to my first mission. The Halbeg missiles were stolen and used by a terrorist organization called Al-Samad, led by Sheikh al-Shahid, operating somewhere from Saudi Arabia. I still don't know much about them or their motivations, but I guess this will change in due time. My mission is to hunt down the rest of the missiles and find out what Al-Samad wants to do with them. With that, I'm finally ready to leave.
And I just got here. Oh, well, I'm gonna miss this place.
I doubt it.
Good. This facility started to feel a little boxed in. Oh, this is a nice place for a safe house, complete with a TV, gear locker, mirror for changing appearances, and the most important piece of the whole apartment: a computer with a secure internet connection that will allow me to check my emails, buy some gear, and most importantly, it will allow me to purchase intel ahead of missions I will go on. The game still doesn't open up completely, that will come later, but right now I get to choose what mission I go on first. There isn't a ton to choose from, but it's better than nothing. The missions themselves are compartmentalized into smaller maps. You can't leave one until the assignment is finished, and you can't return to an already visited place. These are simply one and done, with two exceptions that will come up eventually. A good rule to live by is to first do the missions that concentrate on wiretapping or establishing new contacts. This can expand your options in the internet store, which includes intel, as well as provide emails with new interesting information. First up, the airport, where supposedly the missiles were transported through. I have to bug the flight computer to monitor the comings and goings. Should be pretty straightforward. Taking out the elite guards would probably be a good idea.
Mike, I've got some IDs on some of the men in the camp. Looks like some of Shahid's a leader here. If you can take them out.
You see, sometimes during missions, Michael will get the option to complete additional tasks, just like here. Taking out Al-Samad's elite units will result in their number being lower in future missions. In fact, there will be many opportunities like that in the future, resulting in additional info, some unique dialogue options, or other goodies. It's worth to keep an eye out for such opportunities. This is actually one of the game's strong suits, minor or major actions that will influence future missions in one way or another. Alpha Protocol puts a premium on reactivity. This will come up more than once before we reach the finish line. So, the bug is now planted. It will give me additional info as the story progresses, so it's a worthwhile investment. Another of such investments is tracking down a local arms dealer who was supposedly involved in the missile relocation, a guy named Nasri. Let's pay him a visit. Michael is a pro, so getting inside the compound should be easy.
Nasri said nothing about an American.
Check with Nazri if you don't believe me. He's waiting for me, and my down payment.
I call ahead.
Ha! I see you didn't expect that, Westridge.
Can't believe you bluffed those guards.
He is my handler for this mission. In the previous one, it was Mina. Michael will always have someone on standby to guide him through missions and provide intel. In the future, we will be working with many different people. Right now, Westridge will help me find Nasri. Oh, they found out I was bullshitting at the gate. Oh well, won't make much difference anyway. And this is Nasri. Not much information from him. What now? Do I let him live or kill him? There is one important rule in Alpha Protocol. If you don't really need to, don't kill anybody important. By that I mean anybody you can converse with. Dead people don't talk and don't send emails. So, with each important death, there is that many less interactions in the future. And you just don't know when someone might lend a hand, wittingly or unwittingly. That's a good rule of thumb for most playthroughs. So I chose to let Nasri live, but not without a bit of extortion first.
I'll take the cash you made on the sales here and the account number to the Saudi holdings you think no one knows about. It'll save me from having to hack the file.
The cash will come in handy, and if I let him off the hook too easy, he might get suspicious. As for the consequences, this time they are minimal. There will be an additional intercepted email from Nasri as a bit of flavor. He will also be mentioned by Shahid in the future, but that's still ahead of us. All in all, Nasri is one of the least important named characters, but the rule still stands. I won't kill if I don't have to. Okay, let's finally address the elephant in the room. The one thing that sets Alpha Protocol apart from other games. That thing being the dialogue system. It's a wheel-based dialogue system, where you can have anywhere from 2 to 4 available responses. Most of the time there will be 3 though. The 4th one being rather special, like the recruit or veteran responses Mike will get from time to time. The general idea is to take the 4th option whenever you can, as these are rather rare and it's fun to see where they lead. Although be warned, they are not always positive and an NPC can have a negative response to it. But what's so special about it, you may ask? It seems like many other wheel-based systems implemented in other games. Well, firstly, you don't select an exact response, but rather the tone in which the response will be given, like pragmatic, sarcastic or playful. They all have unique dialogues associated with them, so this isn't just a different flavored yes or no. Secondly, there are no redos, and a set time to commit to an answer. Once an option is selected and confirmed, it's set in stone, and the conversation flows further from there, sometimes changing the outcome in drastic ways. But the most important thing is that the dialogue flows in a very seamless and natural way. It really feels like a conversation, rather than someone spending half an hour standing around awkwardly waiting for the player to decide on the response, making that whole exchange more like an interaction with an information poll rather than a genuine conversation. Even now, after 15 years, this approach feels so fresh that it honestly baffles me why it wasn't implemented in any other RPG. Plus, the disposition of the NPC towards Michael changes during the conversation, which has 2 consequences as I see it. One, concerning the strategy for conducting any given conversation. In this game, choosing different dialogue options doesn't constitute breaking the role-playing part of a role-playing game. You can dabble freely in any option you feel at the time. After all, you are a secret agent and your main priority can be getting as much information out of people as possible. And getting them to like you is a surefire way to achieve that. Dialogue is a powerful tool in Alpha Protocol and can be used to your heart's content. Although playing as a no-nonsense veteran is also a very plausible approach that can yield very different outcomes depending on how far are you willing to go. The second consequence is the aforementioned disposition of NPCs towards Mike. It changes dynamically during a conversation or via an email exchange. And in this game, each ±1 in the like meter towards Michael for any given NPC is a meaningful one. It can unlock additional dialogue choices, gameplay bonuses, or access to new information or gear. But what's more, each important decision, or even if you bring something up or not, will be remembered by their interlocutor, influencing future interactions. You know, it's someone akin to the Telltale Games little prompts that say, "So and so will remember that." But while in these games it was mostly meant to fuck with the player, make him overanalyze each interaction, this time around it actually influences the game, yielding different outcomes more often than not. Even if only with one dialogue line that shows that the NPCs do remember something. Honestly, this dialogue system is so well put together that I actually looked forward to each encounter that included talking, slugging through firefights just to speak to someone. It's simply a spark of genius, and I'm immensely disappointed that I didn't see the system implemented since. I just hope that it will have a new iteration someday. Back to business. In the meantime, a message was intercepted by my handlers, that the missiles and Sheikh al-Shahid will be moving through the airport to a new location. It's Michael's job to stop them and capture the leader of Al-Samad. This mission is a very rare example of reusing an old map to spin a new story. It's the same airport I bugged, but now expanded by additional areas behind it. But there is no time like the present, so let's stop some terrorists. The missiles are at the airport, currently being in the process of moving. This mission basically boils down to a race to the finish line where the missiles will be intercepted. But don't be fooled by the urgency the story tries to instill. It's purely narrative and superficial. There is no actual urgency. You will always catch up with the convoy, so take your time, there's no rush. I eventually reach the final area, and right here a rather tough enemy is waiting. Shahid's right-hand man, a big hulking individual with a golden AK. It's actually the first boss battle, but it is rather underwhelming. It's simply a firefight, without any interesting mechanics on the part of the enemy. So it's best to sneak up behind him and throw him off the walkway. Short and sweet. But somewhat unexpectedly, it's followed by another boss battle, this time against an armored personnel carrier, which is equally disappointing. You see, the fact that new enemies spawn and start laying into Michael is rather expected. But the fact that the same area I came through is now littered with an actual fuckton of rocket launchers is somewhat disorienting. They simply spawn in with the explicit purpose to fire at the striker. I was so perplexed by that when I first played Alpha Protocol that for a moment there I was not sure what I was to do. My rifle did no damage and grenades didn't do shit either. So what to do? Only a bit later I realized that there was a secret Santa in the meantime that left some rocket launchers laying around. I don't know why they even bothered with that. Just derail the convoy by different means, even in a cutscene if that is what you need to do. But don't force a battle that has no business being here. It feels very artificial, not needed at all. But that's in the past right now. While the striker smolders, a person comes wobbling out of the carrier. Sheikh al-Shahid, on the behalf of the US government, you're placed under arrest.
You are here because America's greed demands it. Your country sleeps at Helbeck's feet like a dog, hungry for its weapon.
Oh? What do you mean, Halbeck?
The missiles I stole? They shipped them to you. Then brand me a thief? Helbeck will never answer for what they did. And you have destroyed all evidence of their involvement.
So, according to Shahid, the missiles and all relevant operating data was sold to them. That means that they weren't stolen, and something far bigger is afoot here. He is, of course, pointing fingers at Halbeck, and I'm at least inclined to look into it. All things considered, I still elect to let Shahid go.
I will contact you, and I think the information I can provide will be worth the time you have spent looking for me.
Remember, in Alpha Protocol, don't kill if you can let someone walk. There may be still some interesting content involving him. With Shahid dealt with, it's time to get out of here.
Mike, get out of there.
Mina?
I'm tracking multiple missiles homing in on your coordinates. Get out of there.
What the hell?
Shit, that was rather unexpected, but taking into account what the Sheikh told me, this is a hard indicator that Halbeck wanted to make sure that all evidence of their shenanigans was erased, together with Mike. Mina pretty much confirms it.
Mike, you can't come back.
What?
You're rogue. I checked the feeds. They've already sent out notifications to the intelligence agencies about your status.
Ah, so I'm a fugitive now, on the run from basically everyone. Seems like I will have to establish my own contacts now, as all my so-called buddies that I met up until now regard me as a rogue agent. That's rich coming from people who basically are lapdogs for an arms corporation. Well, apart from Mina. I don't know if I trust her with all that has happened, but at least she tried to warn me, so that has to count for something. And besides, as it will soon turn out, she will pull through and manage to set Mike up with safe houses and other goodies buried deep in the Alpha Protocol resource list. In my book, that warrants at least some trust on my part. But back to the situation at hand. Why would the agency and Halbeck do this?
Profit. Halbeck wants to raise global tensions, spark a Cold War, and turn the world into their private marketplace.
Oh, yeah. Pinpoint attacks in the Middle East, Taiwan and Europe to spark global tensions with the aim of selling more weapons and ammunitions. Well, yeah, that's a solid reason. Looking at this from the point of view of 2025, this isn't that far-fetched. Although in our actual timeline, the corporations have not that much to do with it. Some rather obvious states are trying to destabilize everything in hope of propping up their own position. Yeah, from where I'm sitting, I will be always looking east expecting trouble. And as a fun fact, this will be exactly the first place I visit, Russia. There are two more, Taiwan and Italy. Due to the info I got from Shahid, I know that the missiles were shipped through Moscow. So Halbeck has to have some rather high-level intermediary there. It's high time to find out who it is. In the meantime, I got another small chat with Leland. Nothing major, just a few words back and forth.
There's always one thing I wanted to know. After you killed Shahid, why you did what you did next.
Oh, so he doesn't know that Shahid isn't dead, but just waiting for my call. That's interesting. So this all-knowing facade he puts on is just that, a facade. Good to know. It tells me to keep my cards close to the vest, if I ever get some new ones. I have a feeling that doing this will prove useful eventually. After the scorching desert of Saudi Arabia, it's best to cool down a bit.
Welcome to Moscow, Mike. How do you like your new apartment?
Welcome to Russia. This safe house is also quite nice, but where to even start looking? As per usual, it's best to first talk with any informants that I can get my hands on. And one such man is Grigory. I meet him at a bar, interrupting his rather heavy cough and drinking, also heavy. He gives me a few pointers and refers me to the black market dealers in Moscow. He also gives me a name, Sergei Surkov, a Russian oligarch. Okay, that is at least a start. Plus Grigory will provide new intel on the missions I will go on in the near future. For a fee, of course. But I didn't get anything more specific, so it's time to investigate the train station through where the missiles were shipped. You know what? Truth be told, the mission objective isn't really that important. What is important is that I meet Z here during a shootout with some Russian mobsters. She is currently part of the VCI, or Veteran Combat Initiative, a private military company and security firm that is rather heavy-handed and prefers, how to put it, they prefer to leave a more lasting impression, at least if this mission is anything to go by. Z is ex-Stasi. Oh, ex is German intelligence in Russia? Yeah, that checks out. They were and probably still are in good relations. She is somewhat strong-willed and will respond positively to more aggressive a stance Mike chooses. She even offers to assist me in future missions if the opportunity arises. Who knows, I might actually take her up on that.
Yes, especially if we were to keep working together. It is not marriage I am proposing, Michael, but is the thought so unappealing, I am hurt.
This train station mission nicely segues into the next one, infiltrating Lazo's yacht. And again, the mission objective itself is not that important. The important part is who Mike meets and how he goes about dealing with those people. This time it's G22, an intelligence gathering group specializing in covert operations. And yes, the game presents you with two groups that have opposite approaches when it comes to gameplay. The devs are pretty heavily laying on that in the near future I will have to choose who I prefer to work with, but that is still ahead. On the yacht I meet Sis, by the looks of it a teenage mute girl who uses dual revolvers. Although this encounter ends in a firefight, I, as always, opt to let her leave. And she gives me a necklace before she disappears. What the meaning of the necklace is, to this day, I don't know. I don't even know if the writers know. First, I thought it would be something like Fall from Grace's journal in Planescape Torment, an object of speculation, but after a bit of thought, I discarded that idea. It's much more likely a plot thread that was cut, as Alpha Protocol gives off the vibe of a half-finished game. I believe that this train of thought is much more plausible. Either way, directly after this mission I get to meet the leader of G22, Albatross, a pragmatic, rather stoic guy, and the decision to let Sis live paid off right away.
That would be my bodyguard, Sis. And I know you spared her life. That's why I'm calling.
Don't mention it. I must admit that the approach to missions that Albatross represents is much more to my liking than that what C brings to the table. I'm much more partial to sneaking than going in guns blazing, so I will stick with him on my next mission, which is the infiltration of the US Embassy where Sergei Surkov is holding up, the oligarch that Grigory mentioned. I have a feeling that this is finally the time that I will get some more concrete answers. But that reminds me that I went on for a very long time without talking about how the leveling in Alpha Protocol works. All of the available skills are in some way connected to combat. Even sabotage can be used in combat, which is actually something that rubbed me the wrong way, and does still to this day. There are no people skills, no persuasion, intimidation, nothing of the sort. For a game that so heavily leans into interpersonal relations, that seems to be a rather big omission. But that's just my view of this. I love when a game gives you abilities and character improvements outside of purely combat ones. What we've got are skills related to each major weapon class, as well as sneaking, martial arts and tech. Each of them has one or two special abilities that run on a cooldown timer and can be used during missions. For me, the most useful ones were the invisibility granted by the stealth skill, the remote takeover from sabotage, and of course, chain shot, the most overpowered weapon-related ability in-game. This one allowed me to clear a room in a matter of seconds. If you have any problem with combat in this game, or simply want to have a powerful ability at your disposal, simply spec into pistols. It's the easiest way. Other than that, there is no real reason to spec into more than one weapon type. You will be simply wasting advancement points, with very little return, as there is a finite supply of them. Mike gets 5 such points each level up. It's best to stay in a chosen lane so that you can utilize the most powerful abilities from each skill. But there is one more way other than leveling that can give you some AP during gameplay. This is tied to the perk system. And I honestly love the way it was implemented in this game. It's great and can improve your character tremendously. Different than the skills, the perks aren't chosen by the player, at least not directly. They are rather a reflection of the actions your Michael Thornton makes, and awarded directly due to your playstyle. For example, you get bonus XP for hacking a set amount of computers, or in the more fun department, for hanging up on your interlocutor in at least 2 conversations. There are those that give you the aforementioned AP points for completing dossiers or switching stances during conversation. But there are also perks that give Michael various buffs, like reduced cooldowns or increased endurance. These are also awarded for a variety of actions, like purchasing the most amount of intel or flirting with all the women in-game. But most of these perks will reflect the minor and major decisions you made during the story, effectively reflecting your path and additionally providing some fun bonuses that will help you in gameplay. This is a great inclusion, and reading up on what perk was awarded for what actions can also be fun. So, with this out of the way and Michael properly leveled up, we can finally focus on the next task. This is the first mission I will put my new friends to good use, and by that I mean G22 and Albatross. They will be assisting me in the US Embassy. I tug my way past the guard at the front entrance due to my veteran background and head straight for Surkov.
A C4 explosion in your area. The VCI are attacking the building.
Oh, yeah, I figured as much. The VCI stormed the facility with the same objective as me, I assume. To get to Sergei. What they want with him, I don't know. But the fact is that I need him and have to get to him first. As a side note, If I elected to do this mission with Z, the G-22 would be the group trying to infiltrate the place. So either way, there would be an all-out firefight. I hate it when a game drags me into an all-out shootout. Don't get me wrong, I understand that sometimes things happen and you have to roll with it, but this is something that this game does one too many times, forcing me into a situation where Mike needs to shoot his way out. Why not give me the possibility to still do stuff stealthily, even if the enemies are on high alert? I dislike forcing me into such situations. Oh well, best to roll with it. After some time I reach Surkov and ensure his safety, which results with a little chat with our businessman. You see, according to Sergei, he was the one who initially shipped the missiles, until he had a falling out with the American corporation. The guy who supposedly took over and still works with Halbech as their middleman is one Konstantin Brayko. Color me unconvinced. Knowing how Russia works, it's very probable that Surkov has still all the power and connections, not some street-level thug like Brayko. I will keep an eye on you, Mr. Oligarch, but we will find out in due time, won't we? At this point, the Moscow chapter draws to a slow end. Before the assault on Brayko's mansion, Mike gets to talk to Leland for a bit again.
But you handled yourself exceptionally well. You must have had help. You're truly a skilled agent, Mr. Thornton. But one man against several highly trained squads? No, the odds aren't that good.
Yeah, this man is fishing. Nah, I'm playing my cards close. You will get nothing.
Something wrong?
No. But remind me not to play poker with you.
This conversation makes it safe to assume that Henry doesn't have a clue who helped me out. He knows nothing about G-22, only about Z, and seeing as I didn't take her up on her offer, everyone at Alpha Protocol is looking in the wrong direction when it comes to Mike's contacts. Good, let's keep it that way. Now back to Moscow, let's finish this. If you like disco, this is the level for you. Konstantin seems to love it. Everywhere are disco balls, bright colors, an arcade even. For God's sakes, even the last arena is a disco dance floor. I myself don't really care for that style all that much, but I'm not the one to judge Brayko's taste. I am the one to find and get the info I need out of him.
Mike, I think that's Albatross Brayko's torturing.
He let himself get captured?
Oh, that is rather unexpected. Albatross allowed himself to get captured during the mission. I didn't see him as someone who actually takes part in missions physically. Whatever the case, it's either free him or get the intel from the vault in the mansion. That one is easy. I will never leave a friend behind. I free him and head straight for Konstantin. Okay, a small interjection from me when it comes to this choice. If you choose the data, then whoever is helping you here will die, and the data, all things considered, is inconsequential in the grand scheme of things. But if you are a veteran like me or have the appropriate skill, you can do both. That is why you saw me helping Albatross and raiding the vault just now. Veteran Mike is a badass. But back to my mobster friend. As I already mentioned, Brayko's fight is fought on a disco stage and dance floor, with Konstantin shooting his SMGs and then snorting a line of coke and switching to knives. To be perfectly honest, this is the most fun boss battle in the entire game. The mechanics are somewhat interesting and the enemy character is colorful both in design and personality. But that brings me to something that I alluded to at the beginning. The fact that this game shouldn't be taken as a grounded, serious adventure. Sure, on one side we have plausible politics and world events that could very well destabilize the world, but on the other we have skills that allow you to vanish and enemies like Brayko or Sis, which are walking, talking over exaggerations of what they are supposed to be. And there is many more of those NPCs in the game, for example Z, to mention one we've already met. Don't get me wrong, I love all of them, but this creates a strange tension in the game's writing. On one hand we have serious geopolitical drama, on the other, villains that are straight from Kingsman or an old James Bond movie. It has its place to be sure, but can derail the feel of the game at times. I myself don't pay much attention to such derailments, as I love these characters, but it's something to point out. So, Konstantin, what am I to do with you? Talk, of course.
Why the fuck did you come here?
Information, as always.
Tell me everything you know about Halbeck.
The company? Well, what about them?
You don't even know what I'm talking about, do you? This whole operation hasn't added up since the beginning.
Oh, so my intuition was right all along. Brejko is nothing more than a scapegoat, while Surkov is still in contact with Halbeck, doing their dirty work. Seems like my work in Moscow is not yet finished. Time to pay our businessmen one last visit. Oh, and Konstantin, give me everything you have, and lay low for a while. You might still prove useful. Nah, who am I kidding, he probably won't. But in the case that he might, it's still good to let him go. Again, if I were to kill him, every possible future interaction would go right out the window. But at least I would get his signature SMGs. Speaking about signature SMGs, this seems to be a good place to talk about the gear in this game, before we leave Moscow for good. Truth be told, there isn't much to talk about really, because when it comes to that, Alpha Protocol has shockingly not much to offer, and the difference between weapons in any given category is rather minuscule. True, the guns get progressively better, but I for one didn't feel that much difference during play. The only noticeable change was between the different weapon types, so between an SMG and a shotgun, but that's a given. When I played as a recruit, I didn't change weapons till the very end of the game, and I didn't see any difference to my veteran run where I tried to switch it up a bit from time to time. Visually, they are also very bland, not much variation, everything looks dull and uninspired, which is actually a damn shame. I love to upgrade my gear in RPGs. In Alpha Protocol, the one difference comes with the guns you get from bosses. These at least look a bit more interesting, like Brejko's SMGs or the gold-plated AK from Shahid's bodyguard. Although, when it comes to armors, the situation is a bit different. There are still not that many, but they look way better and are distinctive with regards to their role. Combat armor looks different than the stealth or utility one, although there are only 3 basic types with 3 upgrades each. The armory is also the place where you will probably feel the most difference gameplay-wise, because sound dampening is a thing, as well as armor rating. If the first one is high enough, it will allow you to sneak up to enemies without them hearing you, and the second one will allow you to soak up damage without hurting your health, which is incredibly useful. And honestly, these are the only 2 parameters that make any difference. If you don't care for stealth, just choose whatever armor you like the most visually. So, all in all, the gear in Alpha Protocol is nothing to write home about. It's as basic as it gets. There just isn't much variety, no interesting experimental stuff, nothing with different characteristics, or even shooting modes. What you have at the beginning is what you will get at the end. It's as simple as that. To a point that most of my cash went to the intelligence store and not much else. Oh, and I almost forgot. In some missions, Mike will get access to a sniper rifle. And believe me, this is one of the most infuriating implementations of a sniper rifle that I have ever seen. Even though I love this game, the sniper rifle is a horrendous torture device. The crosshairs glide across the screen like if there are skating on ice, with a large step to each move of the cursor. It's very difficult to aim with it with any precision. At least it kills with one shot and is silent, but that is as much good as I can say about it. Add to that the fact that gadgets are in a vast majority only grenades, and you will get a rather bleak picture when it comes to gear in this game. But that is neither here nor there, and I still have a Russian oligarch to intercept. Add one of his businesses named Molotek. Let's put the finishing touches to this chapter. I find Sergei as he is about to leave. His man at the offices didn't prove that difficult to handle. And Surkov? What can I say? He was not that pleased to see Mike.
Mr. Thornton, just when I think you can't irritate me anymore. I thought Brejko would be a sufficient distraction, but it seems I underestimated you.
Yeah, you see, I don't much like when people use me to do their dirty work. And look, I brought a friend with me.
What? What? Is that your last word, Sergei? Constantine. Thornton did not kill you.
Oh, this Mike here, he's a big talker.
That little encounter seemed to loosen his tongue. Got the intel I needed. As for Sergei, I let Konstantin to put the finishing touches to him.
I'm done here. Brejko, I didn't want you torturing Sergei. I don't care if you kill him.
Same difference. Let's get this show going.
I really don't like being used. With Surkov out of the picture, Halbech lost a very important piece on the chessboard. I'm under no illusion that they won't find someone else to do their bidding, but at least it will take time. Time that I can use to bring them down once and for all. That concludes Thornton's visit to Russia. Time to follow up on another major lead in Taiwan, namely the assassination plot of that country's prime minister. Next stop, Taipei. Oh, now we're talking.
Are you sure about this?
Positive. Trust me.
Okay.
See? What did I tell you?
This safe house entrance is the spy stuff I was waiting for. Entrance hidden in a bathroom. Classic. Pity that this is the only use of such fun cliches, although I will take what I can get. First up, as always, establishing connections. This time around it will be Stephen Heck, a rather unhinged person. Not even sure if he is a real agent, but he is fun as hell. My favorite character in Alpha Protocol by far, even though he seems to have a few screws loose. I'm pretty much convinced that standard CIA procedure doesn't contain interrogating people using bleach.
Dry cleaning solution, Mike. Bleach is too messy.
But his information is solid and I feel that it's better to be on his good side. No one knows what he might do and how much dry cleaning solution might be involved in it. But there is no time like the present. Let's investigate if the Triads possess some information about the assassination attempt. Shahid was funneling money through them. They have to know something. Their local leader, named Hong Shi, indeed knows something, and he's willing to part with that information for a small favor. That favor being getting rid of some of his underlings that want a bit too much independence. That mission turned out to be not that difficult, but at the same time, not exactly what Mr. Hong described. Turns out that the Triad members I just dispatched were those that protested them working together with the Al-Samad terrorist. Mr. Hong, is there any reason why you failed to mention that fact to me before the mission?
I did not feel you needed to know this, Mr. Thornton. Nor do my men.
True, that is none of my business. I would have done it either way. For me, the information is the most important thing. I have an assassination plot to stop. And wouldn't you know it, Mr. Hong came through, giving me the details on where the transfer of an important package will take place. And he warned me of a Chinese secret police agent named Omen Deng. Yeah, we'll keep an eye out for him. Thank you, Mr. Hong. This transaction was very beneficial to both of us.
Oh, Mr. Thornton.
Yeah?
Don't call me Mr. Hong.
I could go straight for the Grand Hotel and the other half of the relevant data, but before this there is one little mission somewhere in a warehouse in Taipei. Something about bugging servers, and seeing as this might yield some new information, it seems to be worth doing. Oh, I didn't expect to bump into G22 here in Taiwan. They don't know that I'm here, so let's keep it that way. I will just quickly switch to tranquilizer rounds as not to kill any of them. After all, they did help me in Moscow and we parted on good terms. I do my thing planting 6 bugs on the servers in the warehouse and make my exit. As I'm about to leave, Albatross contacts me, rather surprised that I almost gave him the slip. Now it's me who's surprised as he managed to find all the malware I installed.
Yes, the 5th was a tricky one, but by then we knew what to look for.
Oh, you found all 5 of them? Yeah, sure, I will deactivate them as a token of goodwill on my part. Good thing I installed 6 of them. Well, what he doesn't know won't hurt him, and I have an additional information mine here in Taipei.
Very devious, Mr. Thornton.
All things considered, this mission was rather fruitful, but the more interesting thing is that I met Albatross for the 2nd time, and every conversation flowed seamlessly as this was the way it was always supposed to be. Let me elaborate what I have in mind with this one, because this is the other great strength of Alpha Protocol, right after the dialogue system. Choices and consequences, and their seamless integration into the story. You see, this could very well be my first encounter with Albatross and the G22, and the dialogue would reflect that, changing in such a way that you wouldn't even know the difference. let me break the continuity here for a bit to paint a better picture. Later in the game, in Rome, we will encounter the head of the VCI, and he will acknowledge the fact that we had dealings with Z, one of his underlings. But if you go to Rome first, this will be totally omitted. Or the fact that I let Braco live will have a small influence in an Italian warehouse. There are many more such ripple effects, small events that influence one another, reaching beyond their individual missions or hubs. And whatever order of hubs you choose, you will get the feeling that your choices matter in a very concrete, tangible way. For God's sakes, even the fact that I let Shahid live will have a small impact on one of the Rome missions, rendering his men non-hostile for its duration. Alpha Protocol masterfully uses these small and bigger decisions to make each game unique and each approach very personal, using to the fullest the numerous variables available. Such attention to all the moving parts is to be commended, and I for one can't think of another game that makes every playthrough and path you want to take so uniquely your own. Maybe Baldur's Gate 3, but that's a whole nother beast. Also, that is why gathering intel and dossiers is so important in this game. Firstly, this is a spy game, so gathering them should be a given. Secondly, it many times opens up new dialogue options and can yield unexpected outcomes, like convincing someone to give more information or skipping a boss battle altogether. But I didn't yet talk about them, did I? The dossiers, I mean. So a small introduction is in order. Each group and person of note in-game has a dossier associated with him, her or it. During gameplay you will get new information that will go into each relevant file. The percentage shows how much you know about any given topic, plus there are sometimes secret facts you can discover, although these are ones that you most likely will experience together with Mike during gameplay. But why is all that important? Well, you can bring up what Mike knows from the dossiers during conversations, yielding different answers and information than the normal path would. So it pays to gather as much intel as you can on your opponents, and friends for that matter. These can be bought in the intelligence store as well as found on missions, so keep an eye out for them, I know I did. This is also a fun way of introducing something of a codex into the game that has a real impact on gameplay, rather than being a simple encyclopedia where the game stores information only for the player. The fact that Mike has also access to it and can use this information makes every discovery that much more exciting and important. This is actually the reason why I always try to make a clean sweep of each mission I go on. You never know what nugget of information might be hidden there. I wager that if anything makes people go back to this game, this information gathering is one of those things, as well as the choices and consequences part of it. Even more than the dialogue system. But we are far from finished with the story. I think it's high time to infiltrate the Grand Hotel and get to the Chinese National Security Bureau's servers. Here I meet a familiar face, Scarlett. Oh, I didn't mention her yet. Well, Mike met her on the plane out of Saudi Arabia. She is a photojournalist traveling all over the world, currently chasing a story in Taipei. It is weird that I didn't mention her up until now, especially that I was feeding her all the embarrassing and juicy Halbech info I came across up until this point. But we are here now, so there is no point in dwelling on it. Her press credentials might come in handy, that is mainly why I contacted her. And in a matter of fact, she did pull through, getting me an access card during the mission. She is very reliable. Although the same cannot be said about another person that helped me during this mission, one Stephen Heck. Doing him a small favor meant that the whole operation ended up in a firefight.
If I do this for you, do you promise not to make a mess on your way out?
Sure, Mike. You'll be spick and span, trust me.
Yeah, somehow I should have seen this one coming. The important part is that I got what I came for. The info that the package that Mr. Hong talked about is bugged, and now I have access to that tracker. I know now where and when the drop-off will take place, so there is nothing left to do other than intercept the package.
So Operation Turbo Panther is finally a go, huh? That's great.
Yeah, I guess that name works as well as any other. I have a feeling that you've planned this hack.
Because I have, Mike.
So Operation Turbo Panther is a go. Hopefully the package will contain information with which I will be able to convince the president of Taiwan, Ronald Tsang, of the assassination plot against him. It's a long shot, but it's the only lead I have right now. I just hope it will pan out. The drop-off will take place on the metro, so this time around maybe it will be a good idea to ditch the armor and go in Mike's casual clothes. Will probably draw less attention. Oh, this here pleasant fellow is Omen Dang.
Portable radio jammer. Very useful. Trying to blend in with the locals, Agent Thornton? Good fieldcraft.
Thank you, Mr. Dang, for the compliment. I dress not to disappoint. He's the main adversary of the Taipei hub. I can't do much to him right now. He has me dead to rights. Seems like he wants to stop me from getting the package. Everything points to him really being involved in the assassination attempt. So, this is the unwelcoming side of the Taipei metro system, but I will get around. After a rather long slog through the tunnels, I finally get the package. Sadly, no Omen, but I have the feeling that I will get to know him a bit better before this whole debacle is over. Let's get the drive I recovered back to the safe house and contact Mina to see what we can get out of it.
Uh-oh. This is not good.
What's wrong?
There was a hidden security protocol on the disk. When I tried to access it, the disk started reformatting itself.
Oh, that is a rather serious roadblock. It's either get the evidence on the destabilizing riots or Tsang's assassination. I opt for the latter, and set up an appointment with the president where I present my suspicions and my findings. And seeing as I have only concrete evidence on his assassination attempt, he will only see to it that his person is better protected. He refuses to send more police and security into the crowds, as not to appear like a dictator. I can respect that. As for me, I am of the opinion that it's better for Tsang to live rather than prevent any possible riots. With him alive, there is at least the possibility of reining them in later. With him gone, the riots would break out either way. That's at least how I see it. I just hope he will heed my warning. With that done, we will not sit idly by and watch as everything unfolds without Mike's involvement. We will attend the president's speech, during which the assassination is set to take place, and provide some cover, by securing the best vantage point overlooking the stage, and take out Omen Dang in the process. With him out of the picture, the assassination will lose the assassin anyway. With the help of the local triads, I shoot my way through the park. Well, it would probably be best if they didn't help me, they are more a hassle than help. But aside from them, the firefight through the park did remind me of something. The minigames in Alpha Protocol. As I was actively taking over cameras and turrets in this section, it naturally is something I have to mention. Well, the minigames are rather dull. Every comment about them I read on the internet is not that positive. They are not difficult. Well, not up until the higher levels. They simply work as something to waste your time rather than anything to meaningfully complement the gameplay. You could remove them completely and each run would be way smoother. Although I am in a small minority here when it comes to the hacking minigame, where you have to find two strings of static numbers in a field of moving ones. That one I actually like, don't know why, but for me it was many times fun to search for those strings. But the amount of minigames I had to go through in the park right here sucked all enjoyment out of them. All that remained was a painful slog. But be it as it may, I finally catch Omen Dang on the vantage point and partake in a rather irritating boss battle, one in which he has a tendency to vanish and run away. It isn't that difficult, but it takes more time than it should on account of the invisibility. Right, Dang? Your time is up.
I might not have been able to stop him, but my people will make you pay for killing Tsang.
What do you mean you're not the shooter? Oh shit.
See anybody.
I didn't expect that. I was completely convinced that Omen is the assassin, and the whole time he thought the same thing about Mike and was trying to stop him. As it turns out, he is a personal, long-standing friend of the president. Someone cleverly played us up against each other, and in the meantime took the shot. Damn it. At least Tsang is okay. He took some precautions and invested in body armor. That saved his life. Though with that misunderstanding cleared up between us, I don't see any reason to hold a grudge against Omen, and besides, he could be helpful sometime in the future. It seems he is a little hurt, but nothing major.
I could have warned him about both, if you hadn't stolen the disc before I could analyze it.
Maybe not to my entire satisfaction, but the Taipei situation has been resolved. One thing that gives me pause though is that Leyland isn't that perturbed by it.
In Taipei, chaos in the streets, an assassination attempt against the president of Taiwan. Well done.
That makes me think that this state of affairs still benefits Halbech, and that is not something I wanted to contribute to. I have to rectify that, and Rome is the only place remaining where I can do that. I am not really sure what I am to do here in Rome, or rather what Halbech's angle here is. All I know is that an Al-Samad cell has been activated here, but what Shahid's organization is gearing up towards, I don't know. Additionally, Mina came across some info about a guy named Konrad Marburg, the head of the VCI, basically Z's boss.
Mike, what's wrong?
Something tells me Marburg's our real problem.
Yeah, I think so too. This guy's trouble. He gives off those ruthless vibes. But firstly, let's cover the basics that will allow me to gather more info. First off, a gelato shop.
That is at least 7 health code violations right there.
Well,
I need to access your Echelon server pursuant to section G817 subparagraph B.
Section G817, eh?
Subparagraph B. Time is a factor here.
This doesn't seem like a reputable place, but at least I installed the malware on the servers in the back of the shop. This one luckily got off without a hitch. Next up is the CIA listening post that I am to bug. In this case, I switched to tranquilizer ammo and non-lethal takedowns. These guys are doing a legitimate job. It would be not that good if it turned into a massacre. It's best to sneak in, do what I have to do and get out. Great, that makes 2 sources of intel for Rome. I think I am set for now. Let's follow up on one of Shahid's men here, someone called Albara. So, this mission. While the missions that are talked through, like the one in the gelato shop, are my favorite ones, I believe that this one is the most infuriating one in the whole game. It is based solely around the sniper rifle that is used to ID the people in the villa. And with the problems I have with this weapon, this was way more irritating than it should. You see, you have to keep an NPC in the crosshairs long enough so that Mina can ID him, in search for Albara. Trying to get an NPC into the crosshairs is a road through pure pain. I didn't even learn anything useful, only a follow-up email that set up a meeting with the aforementioned man, somewhere in a restaurant in Rome. Well, that's better than nothing, I guess. Albara said that it was here. Oh.
Sorry, that's...
Switch off your transmitter. If you reach for your gun, one of my men will put a bullet in your skull.
Well, that was to be expected. This not-so-gentle man...
Don't make me repeat myself.
In front of Mike is Konrad Marburg, Leyland's right-hand man, a corporate lackey if you will, although the man himself would probably object to such a description. I wonder what happened with Albara.
Dead, of course.
Figures. The head of the VCI is here to threaten me to leave Rome and never come back. Yeah, right, like I'm going to listen to that. I don't really like him from this one brief interaction, although he strongly implied that he was once in a situation not dissimilar to Mike's, betrayed by his country. Putting together that what he just said and the hints that Parker made at the beginning, that this isn't the first iteration of the program, my firm guess is that he was exactly in the same position as Thornton, just some years ago, and then got picked up by Halbech somewhere along the line. So that leads me to believe that all those conversations with Leland have one goal: to recruit Mike to be another corporate operative like Marburg. I am fairly convinced of that. The one thing that I still don't know is how Halbech got embedded in a government agency. Although, taking American corporate power and influence into account, that shouldn't be such a problem after all. Either way, I'm not listening to Marburg, and the fact that he bent the knee to an corporation makes me like him even less. Back to the safe house. I have to plan my next move. What's this?
Operator?
Miss St. James?
Hello?
Some woman named Madison St. James is looking for Mike. She works for Marburg and discovered a plot to harm our hero and wants to warn him. That is commendable, but by doing so she put herself in a lot of danger. I'm worried that her involvement will not end well. I set up a meeting with her in a public place, then take her to the safe house, where she will be reasonably safe for the time being. her information on Marburg might still prove useful. Plus, she has some unexpected connection to Parker. She used his old workstation to run background checks on Mike. I wonder what that connection is. The important part is that she points me to Marburg's villa, where he supposedly stores all the sensitive information. Maybe there I will find a hint on what he and Halbech are up to. That's actually my next stop, which starts with a nice interrogation session, but not for long. This whole level is like a maze, but it also lays bare one of Alpha Protocol's weaker sides. You probably noticed it watching, in the Grand Hotel in Taipei or in Moscow. The level design. From layout to decoration, it's rather weak. The game has a tendency to cut off parts of a level you have already left, barring you from returning most of the time, pushing you forward, creating a very corridor-like feeling to the whole experience. Sure, there are some levels that take place in one location. By that I mean one apartment building or office space, but these are rare. Because of this, the progression through a level feels very boxed in and artificial. I had the uncanny feeling that the game wants to push me out of any given level as fast as possible. Sure, it prevents backtracking, but only because there is nowhere to backtrack to. As a consequence, the levels feel small, even if the exterior visuals suggest something else entirely. To add to that, the visual design is also very drab and uninspired. Mostly empty rooms with little clutter or interesting designs. Nothing that would allow any given place to stand out when it comes to design. What I'm trying to say is that each level feels very barren and bare bones. At times I had the feeling that the only decoration I can look at while playing are the tiles on the floor or the wallpaper on the walls. There is from time to time a cabinet or desk that try to fill the space, but it's also minimalistic and clean that this design philosophy stands out more than it should. That said, there are possible exceptions. By that I mean the safe houses in each hub. They at least have the added benefit of having a weapon locker, mirror, computer and some souvenirs you can get from already defeated enemies that liven up the space. So these can be the notable exceptions, but the rest of the levels are a different matter. This level design and poor amount of decorations is probably due to a lack of resources on the part of the development team, or at least I like to think of it as a product of that. And Marburg's mansion is no exception. There is the odd bookshelf, sculpture or painting, but it's not enough to make this place more memorable. It's mostly a set of corridors and rooms. I leave this place with no remorse after grabbing the data I wanted. After all, there is nothing that would keep me here longer, nothing to admire, to feast my sight upon. It's simply bland, and that's a problem with all the levels in Alpha Protocol. But I won't harp on it any longer. Let's check out what my next move will be. The last two missions before the Great Showdown aren't that important. The one thing these missions are meant to do is to put me on the trail of the plan that Marburg and Leland hatched here in Rome. That being, a terrorist attack carried out on the Crusade exhibit in one of Rome's museums, preferably during rush hours, and then blaming all of that on Al-Samad, pushing the European Union to beef up their security in fear of more terrorist attacks. You know, new contracts for Halbech, airport screening tech, surveillance, weapons, the works. Well, this won't be happening now, at least not if I have something to say in this matter. Let's pack my gear and head out to throw a spanner in that plan. Remember, this is a museum, so all security is uninvolved in the terror plot. If I have to fight them, I will be mindful to use non-lethal means. Somewhere during this mission, I encounter a snag.
Mike, I just picked something up on the cameras. It's Marburg's men. They have Madison.
Yeah, they got Madison from the safe house. You know what? This is something that I very much expected. They introduced a potential love interest and placed her in my apartment. To do nothing with her? Yeah, right. Sooner or later something like this was bound to happen. Although to me this choice feels way more artificial than the one in Taipei. Sure, it serves the same narrative purpose, to make Mike choose one over the other, but this time around it was telegraphed way in advance. And the few missions in Rome are way too small a number to build a meaningful relationship between Mike and Madison. It feels somehow very artificial. More than usually, I mean. At least to me it did. This is why when presented with the dilemma to save Madison or stop the terror attack, I chose the terror attack. Sorry, Madison, the devs gave you just too little development for me to care for you. If it was Mina, Scarlet, or even Heck, that would be a whole different story. Yes, Madison dies, killed by Marburg.
Deus Vult.
That is rather sad, but the back and forth between Mike and Conrad is fun to listen to, even considering the circumstances.
You brought it on her. You pulled the trigger. Don't blame me. You made your choice.
Don't give me that third-party bullshit, Marburg.
But the terror attack is thwarted, throwing yet another spanner in the works of Halbech. It's just a pity that I didn't get rid of Marburg here. Oh well, that would be too much to wish for, I guess. I hope there will be another opportunity to get that smug bastard. And a fun little tidbit when it comes to disarming the bombs in the museum. The enemies in the last room are dressed in clothes that I very well know from my first missions. Marburg's men are disguised as Al-Samad terrorists. And a corrupt corporation trying to push their own attacks onto someone else? Preposterous. Although I wonder how much good it will do them, as the rest of the guys I dealt with were definitely those in suits, the typical attire for Conrad's goons. Or is it that perhaps when the police showed up they rotated the camera and the bodies disappeared? Maybe so, who knows? I just realized that this was the last mission available. I finally followed up on all the leads from Saudi Arabia and crossed every plan that Halbech had. And I did a pretty good job if I say so myself. Apart from Taipei, it went rather well. Not without casualties, but efficient. I think now it's time to tie up some loose ends, meet with the people who can help me in this last push and finally go back to Alpha Protocol and dismantle this whole operation. First, I meet with Mina and Scarlet to wrap some things up and create redundancies if I would fail on this island. Next is Sheikh al-Shahid. He is able and willing to help me, but only if I implicate the US government, and I don't know how to feel about it. Sure, they created the agency and failed to control it, but the events of the game are directly due to Halbech, and I don't know if the whole country is to answer for the crimes of one corporation. No, I actually do know how I feel about this. Let's call the fact that I let Shahid go in Saudi Arabia a postponed execution.
I'm glad we were able to meet. I have something you might want to tuck away in that head of yours.
If you do this, you will not leave here.
Oh, your bodyguards? I wouldn't worry about them. I trapped the exterior. That should be the last of them now. No, that's the last one there.
I am ready.
That was for those people on the airliner. It's not much, but at least something. The point is, I will not betray the whole country. And there is still Omen Dang who might lend a hand, as well as Albatross. I think we worked well together. With the final preparations complete, it's time to turn myself in and return to Alpha Protocol. Mike turns himself in and is escorted by Darcy back to the facility. I see they really sent their best agent. Either they are understaffed or they don't treat this seriously. After that, the retrospection with Leland catches up to the present, in the all-too-familiar interrogation room, where Mike is still chatting with Henry.
You see, I'm not here to gloat. I'm here to offer you a deal. Mike, you already work for me. I just like to make it official. We have an excellent insurance package.
As I thought, he extends me the same offer he made to Marburg. Join them and become a corporate asset, doing Halbech's dirty work. Also, it finally becomes clear that they recruited Conrad first and then he made them aware of Alpha Protocol, or rather Deus Vult as it was known at the time. At which point they decided to recruit potential prospects right at the source. Efficient but infuriating if you are on the receiving end, and Michael is on the receiving end. How did the conversation proceed?
Leyland?
What is it?
I've been dying to do that for hours.
Yeah, I was waiting to do that for way too long. And that's a concrete answer to boot. Back to the medical bay, it would seem. On the way there, Mike has a cordial reunion with Marburg. I decided to bring up his dossier and Deus Vult.
I'm surprised you haven't figured it out yet, Marburg. I know your history. I know the United States left you out to dry.
how he was betrayed before and that now he is no more than a corporate lapdog, disposable as always. Honestly, if Halbech did view him as anything of a hindrance, he would be discarded in a heartbeat. And as a result of this little conversation, he will leave the island and probably Halbech's employ. One thing is for certain, I will not be meeting him again.
I don't expect I'll see you again, Agent Thornton. Your mission ends here.
That's a shame, honestly. I really was looking forward to putting an end to him. But what's done is done. Now I just have to get out of here. Good thing I partnered with G22. Sis wastes no time freeing Mike. Now it's time for a little payback. This visit to the facility is also the place where all loose ends can be tied up. Let's start with the first. By talking to Parker, the supposed savant analytic of Alpha Protocol, one that honestly thinks too much of himself. Although he provides one disturbing piece of information. It was Mina who gave up my location in Saudi Arabia. Though this might look worse than it really is, or was at the time. If Mina was asked by her superiors to provide Mike's location, she would probably think nothing of it and give it freely. There is, after all, such a thing as a chain of command. And the moment she discovered what the agency intends to do with Mike, she did everything she could to warn him. In my book, revealing this information isn't as savage of a burn as Alpha Protocol thinks it is. Either way, my little chat with Parker reveals another secret. He was responsible for isolating all the events that I took part in during the game. Starting with the downing of an airliner and ending with the Crusade exhibit in Rome. You know what? All things considered, it's Parker who is the real mastermind and bad guy in all of this. He thinks so high of himself that he doesn't see anything wrong in loss of countless innocent lives as long as Halbech's interests are being bolstered. Of course, he tries to cushion this by saying that it was sanctioned by the US. And yes, to some very limited extent it was. But that is just window dressing. He is an overconfident paper pusher in the end. He didn't see how these incidents can spark a very real war. And to top it all off, he simply miscalculated, and I throw that right in his face. The distribution center in Moscow?
What you said about Moscow, that distribution center is shut down, and I found the real source there. I killed Surkov after he gave me what I needed to know.
The assassination attempt on Sung.
Taipei, the op you had there, where I ran into Omen, he's still alive, and he didn't appreciate being used any more than I did. He'll be pitching in too, along with the rest of China.
See, Parker? You missed the mark by a wide margin, and you will take the blame for all of that. Unless, of course, you are willing to cooperate. This whole debacle doesn't have to be solely your fault. Yeah, that seems to convince him. He will get me all the incriminating data on Halbech and Alpha Protocol. That's a huge step forward for future post-game Mike, I would imagine. Now, allow me for a little interjection here. If you didn't scare Marburg away and collected Madison's whole dossier, you will be able to bring her up to Parker. You see, she is, or rather was in this case, his daughter. She took her mother's maiden name after leaving the US. That's why it didn't click immediately into place. And it also explains why she was using Parker's old workstation. If you bring her up to him and tell him that his analysis had her killed by Marburg, he will try to avenge his daughter. To no avail, I might add. Okay, that's the interjection. Now back to the base. Before getting to the server room, there is one small matter to attend to. Darcy kidnapped Mina and took her here. She is beat up rather badly by the looks of it. Of course, I will not leave her behind. Freeing her is a rather easy task. Even if she gave away my position, she made up for it more than once. But the fun part is that she turned out to be a plant in Alpha Protocol by the National Security Agency, or NSA. Oh, so it turns out that Uncle Sam didn't much trust this branch after all. It is somewhat comforting to think that they were actually still keeping a finger on the pulse here. Although, arguably, they didn't do a good job at it. Now, let's get to the server room and finally out of this bunker. And who is also helpfully blocking my way forward? Why, if it isn't Darcy, my favorite protocol agent.
Hey Mikey, good to see you. Glad you made it out here to our live fire range. No more practice runs for you, this is the real deal.
Ah, shooting him is very satisfying. Although I would prefer to beat him up in a hand-to-hand match. Oh well, I take what I can get. Now straight to Leland. On the way, there is an infuriating helicopter battle to slow me down. I don't know why the devs find it so important to implement these boss battles against machines. This one is like the Striker, completely superfluous and irritating. The fight with Leland, though, is a fast one. 2 chain shots and he goes down.
Going somewhere.
Hi there, Henry. I actually wanted to talk with you.
Please, Agent, don't be a fool. How dare you hit me?
That's for Madison. That's for what you did to Mina. That's for saving my life.
Ah, what a fruitful and satisfying conversation. You have no cards, Leland, but I will let you live. Your testimony might prove useful for my case, but don't keep pushing it. Oh, I stand corrected. I really thought we would not see Marburg ever again. What do you have to say for yourself, Conrad?
Marburg? Marburg!
Yeah, that's so too. So, yes, I was a bit mistaken with him leaving the island immediately, but not with the fact that he is done with Halbeck, or at least Leland. Now let's get off this island with the CEO in tow. What?
You're late.
I honestly did not expect that. Scarlet? I'm hurt in more ways than one. Oh, now everything makes sense. The reason why she was in Taipei. The journalist job is just a cover. It was her that was the assassin and tried to kill President Sang. That's quite an unexpected development. But I thought we were solid, Scarlet. Do you really intend to shoot Mike here?
God damn it, shoot him already. I don't have time for this.
You thought this was a negotiation?
What?
Sorry, Mike. You were never on the list.
That's a lucky break. It pays to have good relations with assassins, even though you don't know that they are one. I think it's best to part ways with Miss Lake here. No hard feelings on my part, just lucky to be alive. As a side note, it is possible in some playthroughs to meet Scarlet sooner in the grey box interrogation room. There she would confess to everything of her own volition, and be even available to help during Mike's escape. So by that token, I think I and Scarlet are still solid. With Leland dead, I think that is all. What's left is to hop on a boat with Mina and leave this island. That's the end of Alpha Protocol. But before I go to the conclusions, let's talk a bit more about the ending, because I have some stuff to say. Let me get the no-so-great things right off the way first. Depending on your playthrough, you might not be able to get closure with each character that you should have had closure with. So for example, if I were to kill Leland myself, there is a high possibility that Scarlet would have never showed up. Not to mention that Westridge was also conspicuously absent from the finale. That is a drawback, but this is due to the biggest strength of the game, its diversity in consequences. There are so many moving parts that the game has sometimes a problem in keeping track of all of them, and the decisions that I made during the whole play up until now all have an impact on how this part of the game will ultimately shake out. Did I discover that Surkov was actually the true intermediate for Halbeck in Moscow? Did I spare Shahid or Oman? Who will be helping me in the last mission? And finally, what standing do I have with each relevant NPC? All that comes into play here. This ending is fascinating for how many choices it tracks and how they have a tangible impact on the story presented. Let me show you a couple of examples. There is a real possibility for Marburg to be absent from this segment if you killed him in Rome, which is entirely possible. You might get to confront Parker face to face if Mike didn't discover the deeper secrets during his adventure. Scarlet can be absent from the ending altogether if you decide to kill Leland. These are only a few variables that come into play here, and honestly, this is awesome. The one drawback is the one I mentioned. Arguably, this game would benefit greatly from a longer development time, if not for improving the base gameplay mechanics, then for the fine-tuning of the choices and consequences part of Alpha Protocol. Because as it stands, it's very good, but with a bit more time I believe that this could become excellent. The ending, even though great, still makes the impression of being only half finished, which is a shame. Now, What do I think of Alpha Protocol? Simply put, I am very fond of this game, even with its flaws. And there are quite a few. The level design could definitely use a bit more love from the developers, but this is something easily overlooked if a game otherwise is engaging. What is more difficult to overlook though are the mechanics. The combat is at best passable, the stealth is a bit better, but the fact that I can't pick up bodies and move them is a big oversight. Especially that they can be seen by the enemy. Them suddenly disappearing is also baffling. This looks like a half-finished system, one where more options were to be implemented but ultimately weren't. So they slapped a band-aid on it. No body, no problem. Well, yeah, most of the time, but not always as it turned out. But these are problems that I for one tend to overlook during play, purely because of the great implementation of the dialogue system, as well as the choices and consequences. The dialogue is simply put genius. There are no stalls during conversation. The flow is very natural and the interlocutors react fluidly to what Mike has to say. Plus, it seamlessly incorporates the other good half of the game. Each relevant choice you made before will find its way into the dialogues that are carried out later, providing for a smooth transition and building the player's certainty that their approach is valid, without some bizarre lines that shouldn't be there, because you did something out of order and haven't met someone or haven't done something, which is a rather common occurrence in other RPGs. To be honest, that happened to me a lot, from Gothic to Baldur's Gate. Alpha Protocol is way better in tracing the decisions I made. And despite its flaws, this game is still great. What it does good, it excels at. I would even have a suggestion, albeit a rather outlandish one, how to make this formula better and get probably a great game in the process. And I know it's far-fetched, but listen for a bit. Did you ever play a modern Hitman game? It really is great, an open sandbox for each mission with many approaches to a target. Make this your basis for the game, and then add the dialogue system from Alpha Protocol and the choices and consequences. Then you might have a masterpiece on your hands. Although I am aware that the amount of moving pieces would be astronomical, so maybe this isn't a viable route after all. But it would be so much fun if it worked. Maybe change some of the mechanics to curtail some approaches that are native to Hitman. Either way, it would be a game that I would love to play. Tell me what you think of the idea down in the comments. That is all I have for you this time. Thanks for holding out with me till the end. If you liked this video, consider liking, commenting and subscribing. For now, take care, and perhaps we'll see us in the next in-depth look.